Also, if you look at the way the markets reacted to the hotter than expected inflation news, particularly in the precious metals markets, it indicates that investors are finally slowly waking up to the reality that when we get these bad inflation numbers, it's not a sign that the Fed is just going to have to fight harder to win its inflation war. It's a sign that the Fed is losing that war and that it's incapable of fighting hard enough to actually win. Ultimately, it's going to surrender. Inflation is going to win. And investors are slowly coming to terms with that reality, because when the number came out, gold did exactly what it's been doing. It sold off. All of its gains were erased. Gold was up better than $10, I think around $12, $13 before the number, and it went into negative territory, but just briefly, and it quickly recovered, and it closed up almost $8.50 on the day, just under $1,798 an ounce. Silver did even better. It closed up 41 cents at $23.46, so it ended up finishing the day with strong gains. Now, on previous hotter than expected inflation numbers, whether it was PPI or CPI, which we're going to get next week, gold and silver were getting crushed on the news that inflation was higher than estimates because of the fear of a more aggressive Fed fight. That would mean rates would be higher for longer, which would be a headwind for gold. Well, now the markets are shrugging that off. You still get the knee-jerk, reflexive kind of reaction as the algorithms immediately sell into that news, but cooler heads are prevailing, and people who are actually thinking are taking advantage of these computer sell programs to buy the dip in gold and silver, because they understand that higher than expected inflation is not bad news for gold and silver. It is good news for gold and silver. It's bad news for the dollar, and the dollar did rally on the news. It was down before the news, and then it had a big spike, but it ended up surrendering most of its gains on the day. It still closed up, but just slightly. I think about 16 basis points. The entire gain on the week for the dollar index was just 0.4, and in fact, it closed below 105 for the second consecutive week. Gold only finished down the week about 0.1%. It ended last week just above 1,800. It finished this week just below, again around 1,798. But silver, not only did it have an up day of 1.6%, but it was up 1.3% on the week, closing at 23.46. Silver is now positive on the year by 0.2%, and it's 33% above its low from a couple of months ago. Silver is in a big bull market, and again, it's a stealth bull market. Nobody is talking about it, which is exactly what I want to hear: silence when it comes to this bull market, because the longer it's ignored, the more progress it's going to make before it has an even meaningful correction. And that's not going to happen until a lot more people get off the sidelines and get into the market, because they notice how much silver has already gone up. And my guess is that probably won't happen until the price of silver has doubled or more from its low.